Hello everyone, it's Alexander from Starni Games. I'm really happy to be back at playing Strategic Mind series today, and I'd like to show you the first historical and first alternate history campaign missions from Strategic Mind Spirit of Liberty. So let's jump right into it.
The Republic of Finland was declared in 1917 and established itself in a bitter civil war against communism. Now, 22 years later, Finnish independence is about to be snuffed out as the old enemy returns. The Red Army marches into Finland. The legendary Carl Gustaf Mannerheim leads the Finnish defense forces, under-equipped, poorly armed, and vastly outnumbered. Only high morale and skillful leadership can tip the scales back in Finland's favor. You will take the role of Lieutenant General Carl Lennart Osh, a talented Finnish officer and Marshal Mannerheim's most trusted commander. As the country's foremost defensive expert, lead Finland in the 3 wars fought on its territory throughout 1939 to 1945, and drive any and all invaders from your northern homeland, no matter which flag they're flying. Hold the line, General Osh.
So, as some of you may know, our team is based in Ukraine, and if we speak about Spirit of Liberty, it's the 5th game in the Strategic Mind series, where we try to cover World War II events from all major participants' point of view. So we wanted to, wrap it up with Finland, because we think that the Winter War and subsequent continuation war and Lapland War, they don't get too much attention, and we wanted to highlight those really epochal events. And basically, we've written all the texts before the Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2022, but if you now listen to them, you will hear a lot of similarities, but I just wanted to let you know that not a single word has been changed after Russia did a full-scale invasion in 2022, so we really tried to relay what the historical events were in 1939 and so on, so it's not influenced by modern day events, although I cannot help but notice a lot of similarities there. So I hope you enjoyed, and here is our main protagonist in the historical campaign, Carl Lennart Osh. So you can see that all the insignias and everything, ribbons and so on, are historically accurate. Okay, let's start. So let's go for challenging difficulty, and let's start.
And so, the Soviet Union shows its true colors. Their troops have crossed our border in force. Gentlemen, the war that began in Poland has finally come to us.
The Soviets claim our troops shelled their positions near the village of Mainila.
An absurd accusation, and they know it. Our artillery was pulled back precisely to prevent an incident like that.
Exactly. They simply needed an excuse to invade us. Now, they've created one.
At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter who fired the first shot. Now we have to defend ourselves.
It does matter to the League of Nations. Our government wants to appeal to the League for assistance.
That's nice, but the League can't help Finland if there is no more Finland to help.
Just so. We must hold the line, General Osh. And you are the best defensive tactician we have.
You'll have your hands full, General. The Soviets plan to overwhelm us with sheer numbers.
A few more months to prepare would have helped. Our main defensive line is still unfinished.
Then we'll have to rely on your skill and the sisu of our soldiers. I am placing my trust in you, General.
I won't let you down. But that appeal to the League, I suggest you tell our government to hurry.
General Iro, give us a situation report.
The Soviet forces have broken through our border defenses. According to the field reports, they expect this initial attack to push all the way to Viipuri.
Well, they won't reach it. General Osh, you will make sure of it. Destroy the enemy's forward units. The time for diplomacy is over.
Understood, Field Marshal. Our soldiers will meet the enemy at Kanerjärvi. The landscape there is excellent for defense. However, we can't hold the enemy there for long. My current forces won't nearly be enough.
I understand. You'll be reinforced at the earliest opportunity, but before that, the fate of Finland depends on your leadership. Do not let your country down, Leonard.
General Oesch, strange enemy activity has been spotted at Patriki. Send in aviation reconnaissance as soon as possible to see what the Soviets are planning.
Understood, General Iro. I will give the orders.
Okay, so a couple of words on the music. So many music tracks are historical, like marches or other music that was that existed at that period. For example, the biggest track that starts right now is called Finlandia, basically Finland. It's written by the most famous Finnish composer, and it was written during the time when Finland was part of Russian Empire, even if it had some limited autonomy. It's still so. This music was kind of partially banned in Russian Empire because they knew it was kind of highlighting, like kind of pushing for Finland's independence before it actually happened. So there is a really interesting story behind Sibelius and his famous music, and it's like really extremely famous composer. So we recorded this piece specifically for this project, and there are many other interesting let's call it historical Finnish music, just famous marches and songs and so on. So we'll hear it during our playthrough. For now, there is one tricky objective. So basically, it's year, as you've seen, it's year 1939, and USSR invades Finland, and our task is to sort of slow down and their advance. So we have primary objectives and we have secondary objectives here, and basically this objective is tricky because you can see turns left 0. This means that this is like the last turn we can still fulfill it, and it's easy to miss, especially if you just started playing the game. So
the forces are comprised of both core and...
Yeah, so I'll probably disable the hints. Yeah, so basically we'll use aviation reconnaissance to see what's happening at Patriki.
The aerial reconnaissance of Patrick is complete, General Iro.
What's the situation there?
There is a train with Soviet armored vehicles at the railroad station. It's currently being unloaded.
This presents an opportunity to capture some tanks, General Oesch. I recommend you don't waste it.
Okay, so we can capture some enemy tanks here. That could come in handy because Finland entered the war with like 30 or so very weak tanks, so they almost didn't have those. Okay, so we need to beat back the Soviet troops, but since we have good defensive positions, so let's just end the turn and see what the Soviets are planning. because, well, they are invading, so let's try to catch them in a counterattack. Okay, so they run into the overwatch fire of our fort, and now they'll try... Okay, they're now overwatched by our anti-tank guns as well, so that's perfect. Now you can see that we don't see what this unit is yet, but now we can see it. It's an enemy scout car. But actually Soviet scout cars are quite scary. They have a powerful, like, not really powerful, but powerful for a recon car 45mm gun, so they can actually deal some damage to armored units as well, unlike most other scout vehicles in the game. Okay, so let's use artillery to sort of weaken this tank. So you can see that first number is lethal damage and the second number is a non-lethal damage. So if you want the enemy to surrender, you just need to do a lot of non-lethal damage and then attack them in close combat. Okay, so we will also use this fort to attack the enemy infantry. Okay, let's see what they will do now. I say no need to go crazy just yet. Let the enemy kind of run into our defenses and sustain heavier losses than it would if we just rushed into them. But we won't be sitting here for the whole mission, you know. We have some other plans of strategic importance coming up. Okay, so here are some allied garrison as well. So, okay, let's send those guys to capture the tanks. Yeah, there is animation of destruction, but you can see there is like a surrender label, so in fact it's surrendered. Okay, here we cannot fire over the rough ground, so won't be able to attack it just yet, but yeah, so let's actually move in here and attack this scout car. Okay, let's attack it with tanks. It's already weakened. Okay. Well, that wasn't ideal because they had artillery support, so we need to be more careful. Okay. So we are slowly starting to advance. As you can see, it's non-lethal damage, so it will later be recovered. And those guys we sent to the right flank or the left flank, depending on where you're looking from, are really good at intercepting those guys if needed, but our allies kind of helped us out. So let's attack with our anti-tank gun and finish them off.
The Soviet offensive has been repelled, Field Marshal.
Excellent work, General Osh. This gives us some time and we must use it well. I'm sending you some reinforcements as we speak. Assume the command. Your next task will be to capture the airfield near Mustamaki. Take it from the Soviets and we'll be able to send in the Air Force.
Whatever you send, I won't say no to it. We're dealing with an invasion here. I'll give orders to capture that airfield.
Okay, great. So now our task is to advance forward and capture the airfield. So maybe we'll get some air support as well. It's better to keep infantry in the woods. They are much better protected in there. So let's just hide from the enemy artillery. The tanks can move in here, but there is anti-tank gun standing close, so I wouldn't do it just yet. I'd rather keep them in the back for now and then attack on the next turn, kind of. Maybe bring them a little bit closer. Maybe bring artillery a bit closer. Enemy artillery. Okay, we are within its range, but I'm not sure if they see us. Let's move here. And let's bring more troops over. Okay, so yeah, let's finish our turn and see what's going on. So as you can see,
Greetings, General Oesch. Our intelligence service reports that the Soviets have recently captured a warehouse in this area, one we couldn't evacuate on time. We cannot afford to waste valuable army equipment like that. Retake the warehouse at the earliest opportunity.
Thank you for the information, General Iro. I will see what I can do.
okay, great. So for now, let's continue with our plan. Okay, so let's try to deal with the enemy artillery first, as it's potentially the most dangerous part. You can also see from time to time those close-up cameras. Okay, let's see what's the best course of action here. Okay, let's try to attack it with tanks first. Sustain some light damage. Then let's attack it with our artillery. And let's finish it off with our infantry troops. And let's use this artillery piece to fire at the enemy anti-tank unit. And let's attack it with our recon car from the woods. Okay, let's bring the artillery closer, and let's bring over some more troops. Okay, let's see, I hope we just don't get hit too hard. Our recon unit is kind of vulnerable in there in the city. Okay, those guys just decided to stay entrenched. So let's start pounding at them with our artillery, I say. Since they don't have a lot of support here. So, you know, this is the game about like strategic moves, even though there is a lot of tactical stuff going on. It's also important, you know, to use the right combined arms operations, like combine artillery and air power and land units and armor and infantry and so on, so they all work like a well-oiled machine. So you know, it may not look like much, but when you play you'll understand that basically...
The airfield is ours, Field Marshal Mannerheim.
Good to hear. Our combat aviation is now under your command. General Oesch, the time has come for a counterattack. You need to recapture the city of Raivola. That will serve as a cold shower for the Reds.
It will be done, Field Marshal Mannerheim.
Yeah, so you will see that it's actually sometimes a bit quite tricky to manage your troops properly. So let's attack with Air Force we just received. Okay, let's finish them off. Okay, so our next task is capture Rivala. And we also need to move around, we need to spread out a little bit more. So let's keep moving with our recon vehicle. It's actually a Swedish one, but the Finns had a few of them in 1939, managed to buy a few from Sweden before the war started. It's Landsverk car. So yeah, so we need to keep our forces safe from the enemy aircraft. So let's move in our anti-aircraft gun forward, and let's keep our fighters close to our bombers for now, until we see what the enemy aviation has in mind. So yeah, I would be a bit cautious here, because I do know that the enemy has some aviation units as well, and they might attack us at any moment, basically, so we need to be careful about that. And also we need to take shelter in the city, as it offers greater protection and will help us kind of hold this position, and from here we can move to the north and to the south to capture our key objective for now. So let's bring artillery a little bit closer, but kind of, yeah, keep it within the city limits. And let's bring these guys closer, I guess. I'm not sure if I want them moving by truck, because they can be easy target for the enemy aviation. Okay, let's continue. So the enemy fighter planes got intercepted by our AA, but this artillery was kind of left out of the loop and attacked in the rear. So aviation is really good for...
General Oesch, something absolutely infuriating is happening at Kivenapa. Eyewitnesses report a Soviet armored car with a loudspeaker mounted on it, driving around and spreading Bolshevik propaganda.
Didn't think anything could infuriate you, Iroh. But I suppose listening about the joys awaiting Finland under communism will get on anybody's nerves.
Precisely. Our people are more or less immune to that nonsense, but it makes the Soviet soldiers fight with added enthusiasm. For God's sake, get in there and shut that circus down.
It will be my pleasure.
Yeah, so as you can see, aircraft units are really good at intercepting some unprotected convoys or troops on the march, so they could be really devastating to those. So you really need to keep your troops well protected and combined. Like here, we try to defend our troops with fighters and with the anti-aircraft gun, but these guys were left out of range. So the enemy player just immediately used that opportunity to attack us there. But we can also